thank you all so much for joining us this evening to learn how you can celebrate the holidays more sustainably this year. I am Kenny, Program and Outreach Coordinator for Sustainability Matters, and I am absolutely thrilled to be here tonight. As soon as we got this green gifting webinar on the calendar, I have personally really been looking forward to it. The holidays are probably my personal favorite time of the year, and I'm sure it is the same for many of you guys that are here with us tonight. But a lot of the time, you don't really think about the environmental impact and all of the waste that gets produced during these couple of months. As a 24-year-old, I'm still a new adult, and as a kid, I can say I was definitely not thinking about it at all. But once you do, it's really hard not to see the problem of waste and sustainability with almost everything that you observe during the holiday season. And in preparation for this webinar and for some social media videos that you may or may not be seeing my face in these next couple of weeks, depending on how the meta algorithm decides to prioritize us, I found some statistics about really how big of a problem this waste generation during the holidays is. And I thought that it would be pretty interesting to share those stats with you guys so we have a little bit of a base layer of understanding about how big this issue that we're facing really is. So between Thanksgiving and New Year's, the amount of waste produced by the average American increases by about 25%, which means that on average, the average person is throwing away 6.25 pounds of trash per day, which is just under 44 pounds of trash per week. To give you like an estimate of what that is kind of similar to, according to Google, that is about the weight of a twin-sized mattress or a 6-year-old child. I cannot confirm or deny how accurate those measurements are. The other ones were like 4.5 gallons of paint, and a mattress seems more applicable than those. So I went with that. But as you can tell, that's a lot of trash that we're producing. And in a country with a population of more than 330 million people, you can see how just that 25% increase on an individual level can really snowball to have a massive effect on our environment and just kind of the planet as a whole. So I'm super excited to learn alongside all of you guys tonight, to learn how we can do better and address this problem head on at the individual level. But before that, I would like to give each of our amazing panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves and their amazing businesses and brands. So first up, we have Melissa, the owner of Great.Full Goods, located in Harrisonburg.
Hi, I'm Melissa Wynn. I am the owner-founder of Great.Full Goods. We're a sustainable lifestyle store in Harrisonburg, Virginia. My shop has items that you can refill that you would use every day, like soaps and shampoos and whatnot, like a refill store. But also I curate items that have been great for my family. I have been going low waste for 12 years. And so my journey is still going. It's going to be a journey for a long time. Can't get away from the superfluous packaging and whatnot, of course. Yeah, I am. My community is very much supportive of this lifestyle. And we have actually a co-op nearby that also supplies refills and sustainable items too. I am a mom of 4. I have a 16, 13, 9, and 2-year-old, and they are all being raised to be a little bit more conscious about their decisions and choices and present picking and whatnot for the holidays. So yeah, I'm just really happy to be here, and I am excited to give you all some answers to some of these questions.
Thank you so much, Melissa. And next up, we have Robin.
Hey, everybody. I'm Robin Moser. I am the founder owner of Virginia Mercantile. We have 2 different shops, as you see on the screen. One in Clifton, which is a tiny little town in Northern Virginia, about 20 miles outside of DC, and one in downtown Richmond. So very different settings for each of those shops. The Richmond one is new for us. We just opened earlier this year, still really trying to get our name out and about in that area. But I guess my journey towards this was that I was trying to shop more sustainably. I was doing most of it online, and even then was having a hard time finding, I would find something I loved and then it would be sold out in no time. So I started looking locally and trying to find the same types of products in local shops and couldn't. So that prompted us to try to take it on ourselves of, well, somebody's got to do this, and if not us, who? So we started in 2021, so in spring of 21, in Clifton, and we had two different themes in mind. One was the sustainability piece, because I knew I had a hard time finding the things that I relied on, but then we also really wanted to showcase locally made items. So we dovetailed those together, and the farmers markets were great when they were operating, but inevitably you needed something and the farmers market wasn't open, or the vendor that you were looking for was at a different place that week. So we work with local producers to sell their goods in both of our shops, where they might not reach the threshold for some of the other brick and mortar shops. And by doing so, we've been able to actually merge the two together and really work with local vendors on how to package their items more sustainably and how to ship them more sustainably. For example, our card makers, we originally weren't going to do greeting cards at all, but we ended up going down that road and then working with vendors to leave off the plastic packaging. So much of what's done is really done for mass market retail. And when you're working in a different environment like ours, where it's much more niche and hands-on, people want to know the stories about the items. They want to connect with the makers. We actually bring the makers into the retail environment on a fairly regular basis, so that they can connect directly with consumers and see how things are being used. And that helps them adapt their packaging styles to be more useful in the home. So that's kind of our two different areas. We say local and sustainable, but that we're trying to bring the two closer together and have more sustainable items made locally and more local items made sustainably. So I would say I'm also a mom. Mine are a little bit older. So I have, unlike Melissa, um, teenagers, which are older teenagers, 17 and 18-year-olds. So I celebrate the small wins with my teenagers when they find one thing or two things that are more sustainable and they are sharing those with their friends. For me, that's a huge win. But I will be fully honest to say that there's also plenty of typical teenage behavior in my household, and I've had to let go of the fact that I don't have full control over their daily actions. But it's been a fun journey for sure, and I do think that it has made a difference in their awareness, at least, of options that are available.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Robin. And our last panelist for the evening is joining us all the way from Atlanta. Please help me welcome Janelle, Executive Director of Scraplanta.
Hello, my name is Jonelle, and I am the director at Scraplanta Creative Reuse. We are a 501c3 nonprofit that inspires people to make art instead of waste. And how we do that is we have our art supply thrift store. So there are a lot of art supplies, classroom found objects, all those things that you might have around the house, and you can't really donate to traditional thrift stores. They might just throw it out, or they don't think that it's going to sell, so they don't put it on the sales floor. But at Scraplanta, we make sure that it's connected with teachers and students and aspiring artists across Atlanta. We are currently in our first ever permanent retail space, and it's quite small, but in just 1 year, we've collected 75,000 pounds of materials from all over Georgia. We even had people come from Oklahoma and Italy just to come to Scraplanta, because people genuinely want to get art supplies that are saved from the landfill. And then we also have art classes where people learn how to upcycle things. So we've had art activations where we've made decorations from CDs and things like that. So we just really want to inspire people to show you that you don't have to throw things out. You can make things new again with old things. Thank you.
Fantastic. And thank all of you guys for sharing your stories and volunteering your time to be with us here this evening. As an organization, we at Sustainability Matters really pride ourselves on caring about people as much as we care about the planet, and making sustainability fun, realistic, and inclusive of every single person possible. And as you can tell from the 3 introductions we just got from the panelists, they really share that very similar approach to sustainability as us. So I'm super, super excited to learn from them here today. And to start off our discussion, I thought it would be a good idea to kind of hit the most basic fundamental question first. What does sustainability mean to you, and why do you think that practicing it during the holiday season, the most joyous time of the year, is particularly important? We'll go with Robin first.
All right. Well, the easy answer is kind of what you said in the beginning, which is this is the time of year where you are spending more time with family and friends. So you get to connect with each other, and it just doing so has become really commercialized. And so it's a fantastic opportunity and window to really share. And I know we'll go into that a little bit more, but with the people that you love, that you're closest to, that really look up to you, some different options or ideas in a way that is very non-threatening. So that to me is a big one because it's the time I connect with my family and friends. I know personal level, most everything else is done virtually. So, throughout the year, catching up through a group text call or a group text chat, or a FaceTime call or something like that. But coming together in person is such a fantastic opportunity. And it's just such a shame to do that around all of the packaging waste that goes along with it. So that's for me. I'll let the other ladies answer as well.
I can answer about that. So for me, sustainability is just about making sure that what we do minimizes our impact on the earth. And why it's so important during the holidays is because the holidays really is about us coming together as family. And as we get older and we move away from each other, we really just want to celebrate those times where we're together. And at the end of the day, it's not really about the gifts. Gifts are a way for people to have tangible tokens of folks' appreciation for them. But in my experience, as someone who went away for college, there are a lot of times where it's like Christmas break, I'd get some gifts and I'd leave them in my home, and then go off to college and then come back in March or spring break, and that stuff is still there. And so now it's time that as we get older and we want to be more wise about how we spend our money and resources, we think about gifts that are practical and won't just sit in our rooms and stuff.
I definitely have a couple of gifts like that.
And for me, I think that the holidays are the first time I ever thought about sustainability. I was younger and I used to just drive my cousins and my siblings crazy because I would unwrap my presents very carefully so that they didn't rip the paper so that I could reuse it and make scrapbooks and stuff. So the holidays always remind me of just I guess also being with family and them asking me how the shop's doing, how, what new things are there out there that have to do with sustainability. So yes, the wrapping paper and all that stuff is a lot, but getting together and talking about it more is, I think, something that we all need to do.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much. And speaking of wrapping paper, that is possibly culprit number one of a lot of this stuff. In my research, I found that the US produces 4.6 million pounds of wrapping paper every single year, and about half of that ends up in the landfill, which, if you add it all together, is tens, if not hundreds of thousands of miles of just paper that ends up in the landfill. So what are some sustainable options to wrap gifts that don't involve plastic-lined wrapping paper that can't even be recycled? Maybe we'll start with Robin for this one. Perfect.
All right. So reusing, right? These are the things that if you've gotten anything shipped to you and it comes with a brown paper, that brown paper makes a great wrapping, and that's a zero impact piece. Can also then be composted afterwards. You'll see that I'm a huge composter. I believe in home composting because then it lets you see the process yourself and you can see what does become healthy soil and what might make your soil not as healthy. So it just informs that full cycle piece. Also things like the old handkerchiefs and bandanas and things that you find around the house, you can shop for them in shops like Janelle has or other thrift shops. You can specifically look for pieces of fabric that just make beautiful gifts And then we love to use pieces from our garden. We have a magnolia tree outside, so even the shop uses the magnolia leaves around the holidays. Actually, we use them year round, but as a way to make something a little special, because you want it to feel beautiful, but it doesn't necessarily, in fact, it absolutely doesn't have to be something that you buy in a store. You can utilize what you have available to you and just, yeah, so that's the starting point.
Yeah, I can echo Robin there. At the shop this year, we'll be using scrap fabric from our new creative reuse center, as well as a thrift store nearby. So we'll be looking for pieces of fabric to do a Japanese method of like tying the fabric. And then also, over the years, I've done some different things, like using the paper that all my kids bring home from school and turning it to the white side and having them decorate the other side, just drawing Christmas trees and things on that paper, newspaper. And I even have an uncle that wraps things in his used aluminum foil. So lots of different ways to go around the wrapping paper.
To echo Melissa's statement, growing up, we used to wrap things up in newspaper, and we try to keep the comic section, so we'd have colorful newspaper. Another thing is we also have gift bags that we use like every year. Like as soon as we were done opening our presents, like my mom would just get the gift bags and fold them up and put in a box for next year. And so every year we'd be like, okay, well, who's gonna get that Mickey Mouse bag this year? And now that we've all like moved away, it's like now we get to surprise people when we come back with the Mickey Mouse bag or the other bags that we have from over the years.
That's so funny. My family actually started doing something kind of similar 2 years ago. It's only with one bag though. It is a bag of the Queen of England, like hunched over, looking kind of scary. But we all just absolutely find it absolutely hilarious. Good old Lilibet. And speaking of kind of paper, not just wrapping paper, but what are your all's thoughts on
Actually, sorry, can I break in for a second? I just saw we had a question asking about which wrapping paper is recyclable and which is not recyclable. Is there a general guideline to be able to tell that?
So one of the big tricks is to make sure it doesn't have foil on it and it's not too shiny. Those are two indicators that if it's really shiny or if it has like a glitter or a foil, it's probably not recyclable. And I think there's the scrunch test. I don't know, you guys can tell me if that's ever flawed, but if it scrunches and stays scrunched, apparently it's recyclable. If it scrunches and then eventually spreads back out, it's got a plastic layer on it and it would not be recyclable.
Thank you, Robin. But yeah, speaking of paper, in addition to wrapping paper, holiday cards are also a big contributor of waste during the holiday season. Obviously, a lot of those things are pretty much one-time uses. You're not sending out holiday cards more than once typically. So what are your all's thoughts on good ways to still share the holiday spirit with your friends and family that may not live close without sending a physical card to them?
I would say a newsletter or email that includes pictures. We've done that before. And at one point, I just put up a web page for a few years before things got crazy with this shop. And I would update all year round with a little holiday note at the end of the year.
I think that's a great idea. And at least speaking from a younger generation, email pictures also work exceptionally well. I'm only 24. I have moved into my apartment last month. I have not checked my mailbox a single time. All of my stuff is paperless and I don't get mail, so I don't even look at it. So at least, especially if it's for younger people, a lot of them are not even going to be checking that mailbox. And speaking from personal experience, especially if you're someone who likes to give gift cards, or if you're a mom or grandma who likes to give checks to nieces or nephews or grandchildren, they will appreciate the money just as much if you hand it to them directly as they will if they open up a card and see the money in there. My grandma made that switch a couple of years ago, and I can promise you the money still spends without the wasted paper. I can absolutely promise you. But moving on from paper, just kind of in the spirit of, low waste gift giving and how to do it, What are some of your favorite eco-friendly and sustainable gifts to give this holiday season?
I'll say one of my favorite gifts to give is experiences. People often think that you have to give that physical item, but I guess being in Atlanta, we have so many different cultural spots that we can visit, and just giving someone that time to be like, let's go to this museum of slime versus like this, this slime kit that's going to be packaged in all of this plastic. Like we just go to the slime museum, and I've had so many memorable experiences that I remember way more than like a lot of physical gifts that I've gotten.
I agree with that. We give experiences to our family and children, but I also think that it is sustainable to shop local at your, small businesses, or even to find places like a creative reuse center, because you can make something together that will last a long time too. So I love the idea of making something or experiences.
I'm just going to add one more in, which I'm really into, especially this year. So with refilleries, and they're popping up all over to give and reuse bottles. So watch for containers throughout the year that you come across that you're like, man, this would be really perfect in so-and-so's, marble bathroom. And then to save and to gift them those with a gift card to the refillery, so that it's a gift, but it also is kind of introducing them to a new concept, but really lowering the barrier for entry so they know exactly what to take with them. They can, get help the first time, and then get feedback from them. Like, what did you think? What did you like? What are you using? I think that's a great way to kind of initiate people who might otherwise not take the time to go seek out a refillery.
I think that's a great idea. It's like a polite nudge that you can do this better, but it's in the form of a gift. So it's not like it's not an attack on anything. That's a very good idea. Kind of on the topic again of sustainable gift giving and not wanting to produce more waste from these gifts, what are your all's thoughts on repurposing gifts you've received in the past and regifting them? A lot of people obviously have some strong feelings about not wanting to get a gift that was regifted, but if you receive something that you're never going to use that someone else will, do you guys think it's okay to go ahead and share it with them, or should this always be about trying to find something new that is meaningful for these people that you're gift giving to?
I think regifting is okay. It's very sustainable because it's something that's just going to sit anyway if you're not going to use it. So I think that it is thoughtful to think of someone that would be able to use it and then gift it onto them. You know.
I think I'm in the thoughtful aspect of it. If it think that the person would actually love it and use it, then yes, absolutely. If not, I would probably put it on something like a buy nothing page on Facebook or something, so that it's still going to somebody who could use it, but it's not directed to someone. If it's just passing the buck to the next person, then obviously that's not going to be incredibly well received. So it's about the thoughtful aspect of it, and then explaining why it seemed like such a good fit for that person. And just a note, things that you've had for a while that fall into kind of the heirloom category, if you think somebody else would love it and cherish it, don't wait. Go ahead and roll that into a gift as well. I think for family members, that's something that, we always think later on, they'll inherit it. Why wait? If you know that they would enjoy it today, that's a perfect gift. And I know I've really cherished things that were given to me by family members. So those are the types of things that you don't have to buy something for it to really feel special to receive it. So
I definitely agree. Like regifting is something that I actually love to do a lot when it comes to books that I have, because there are some books that they meant a lot to me at one point in my life, but when I meet other people, like and the book resonates with them more, I'm like, go ahead and here you go, just take this. And sometimes I've even given away books that the author signed themselves, or with notes in them, and I just add another note to it. And I just hope that when that person is done with the gift, they just give the book to the next person, and it just has a book full of notes.
That's really a great idea on the books. You might have just solved a couple of gifts for me this year, Janelle. Like, to be completely honest, that's a great idea. And probably going right back to you for this next question. Are there any homemade or DIY gifts that you guys really like gifting either this year or that you've had success with in the past?
Yes. So I like to bake gifts for my friends. Like usually I have one cookie recipe that I make every year. It's like each year I change the recipe, but I bake it and then I just thrift some cookie tins. Sometimes I even thrift mason jars and put cocoa powder mix in them and give them to people. And then also as a seamstress, I have a lot of leftover fabric at the end of the year, and people are always asking me like, man, you got this fabric, it's so cool. I wish I could have more of it. And I'm like, nope, I thrifted this fabric. But with the scraps, I will make things like eye masks and scrunchies and things like that. They're like small things that you can gift to people and that are practical, especially for people who travel. So I say just consider looking at everything you have when it comes to your craft supplies and seeing like what you can make with the scraps that are still like functional gifts for people.
That's really a great approach to the gift giving. And probably just going right back to you. Are there any like fun, crafty decorations or things like that that you can use from either old materials that you have in the house, old art materials? What are some of your favorite crafty projects to get decorated for the holiday season?
Yes. So one of the things that I see a lot at Scraplanta and in thrift stores in general are like trophies and toys. And I recently learned that you can spray paint toys and trophies as well. And you can make like garlands with them and different like ornaments with them. And so I've seen so many Christmases that aren't just red and green anymore. Like Christmas is now pastel, it's glamorous, it's luxe, it's so many different things. So I think if we just gather found objects and just paint them whatever Christmas theme we have, like we have our decorations. Like we don't have to just look at it as the traditional like round ornaments. We can look at the trophy ornaments and things like that.
I will say for my shop this year, we made all of the garland out of scrap fabric from a local thrift store. We took like little strips and tied them over and over again. And I picked like golds and pinks and greens and reds. So it was a little bit of holiday, but little glitzy, and they look great. I'm looking at them right now.
Making your own decorations is also amazing because not only are you reducing waste, but you're giving yourself a fun activity, especially if you have kids. Doing stuff like that can really help them get into the holiday spirit. I have been doing some recon on social media and I've seen some really, really cute ideas. Apparently mushroom garland is really, really popular right now. I saw a tweet that said mushrooms are the new pineapple, apparently, for Christmas. I think that was before my time a little bit. I don't really remember pineapples that much, but people are making these amazing mushroom garlands using just twigs from their yard and either old orange peels that they use as like the cap cover, or even acorns that they paint to look like, little fairy houses, which I think is just absolutely adorable. And again, if you have kids or you want to have a girls' night or a guys' night with your friends, it's a great idea to just get yourself in the holiday spirit by making some easy DIY decorations.
And forged centerpieces too, because there's so many dried plants right now everywhere. Forged centerpieces can be really beautiful for your holiday table.
That is a great point. Like, check your yard. There's probably a tree that looks very nice for the center, not to cut down and use as a holiday tree, but you can take some branches of it, take some cuttings, and it will look like a very, very nice centerpiece. So, on the topic of trees, possibly the most discussed topic around the holiday season dealing with sustainability. Real trees or fake trees? Do any of you guys have strong feelings either way about them? Because obviously there are pros and cons to each approach.
I will say, my family is actually allergic to real trees. So we've had our fake tree for 10 years. It's still going strong. And whenever a branch doesn't look quite right, it's pretty easy to find something at the thrift store to stick in there, fill the space, make it look nice and lush again. But now there are also replantable trees, which I think is really cool. You can go to a tree nursery and get one that still has its roots connected and then plant it in your yard. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it depends is the answer that I would typically give. Like if you've had a tree, we have an employee in our shop who's had a tree for the 20 something years that she's been married. And she said at this point, it's just like sentimental attachment, but it's still standing. So as long as she can prop it up in a corner and then put pretty things around it, it's still serving its function and it means something to them as a family. That's probably a better route because, but then, you know, I will also say I like live things in my house. The smells, there's just nothing like it. So we also are tempted. One thing I'm trying this year, I haven't tried it before, but is using a branch instead of a tree. So I'm not cutting down the whole tree. I'm just kind of scalping part of the side of it. I'm not exactly sure what that's going to look like. I will report back later, but just ways to be able to get a little bit of kind of fresh greenery in without it necessarily taking down an entire tree.
I love that.
That's a great idea. My idea when it comes to trees, like I grew up with a tree, and then I was in dorms and apartments and stuff, and then we didn't have room for a tree. So now I'm in this mindset where I'm like, I'd rather just stack the presents in the shape of a tree and we just destroy it on Christmas Day, so we don't have to worry about like trying to break down this 3-piece tree and then put it back in the attic. But it's just about reimagining what the tree could be. I've seen people have like ribbon that hangs a certain way that it comes down like a tree from the ceiling. But I know certain states have Center for Hard and Recyclable Materials that do accept fake trees, which makes it easier to get rid of that, you know, decades old tree that keeps shedding every time you pick it up.
And I love that you said reimagining the tree, because I'm thinking back to when I lived in an apartment, like on the 4th floor. I got this knight in shining armor from like a yard sale, and I just wrapped lights around him and hung some ornaments. And I was like, to my son was like a year old, and I was like, that's our tree. And for him, it was still just as magical.
I think that's such a great point, especially if you have young kids. This is such a great time to be like reimagining and reinventing these holiday traditions and making them more sustainable. Kind of like you guys, I lived like with the dorm life. I didn't have trees any of that time. And last year I ended up just using one of my house plants as my Christmas tree. It was a big Norfolk pine that's able to live all year round. So I didn't have to just throw it away once it was done. But really reimagining and looking for stuff that you already have to use as, you know, a centerpiece for your holiday celebration is really a great idea. And I just think it's very, very kind of cool that we have 4 sustainable people who have talked about owning a Christmas tree that use either an artificial one or use something else. A lot of the times people will say don't use those plastic trees because, you know, they take a ton of energy and resources to produce. You typically can't recycle them that easily, and most people don't actually use them that long. But if you actually buy that artificial tree and use it for 10, 20 years, there is a very good chance that that is going to have a much lesser impact than if you were cutting down and buying a new live tree every single year. Especially because there are a lot of people who probably say, I'm going to buy this live tree and I'm going to compost it at the end of the year. And then January 3rd hits and your tree looks terrible and it's really cold outside and you just want to forget all about it and shove it onto your sidewalk for the trash man to come take. I have seen that happen a lot with people that I know. So it's definitely good to just find what works for you and kind of just stick with that, whether that be a live tree, an artificial tree, or stacking presents or using a house plant or really anything that you'd like. So on the topic of that, are there any fun crafty ornaments or decor for trees that you guys like doing? I know growing up in schools, I always made those puzzle wreaths to hang on there with old pieces. But are there any other craft ideas that you guys like to do?
This one falls into the oldie but goodie category of truly popcorn and cranberries can be super fun to just sit around and make an evening of making a garland out of those. And it's really pretty and is completely sustainable. If you use a cotton thread as you're stringing things along, you can compost the entire thing or just set it outside and let the birds have it afterwards. So that's one option.
Personally, I will also be trying my hand at, I think it is dough salt ornaments. I saw this online. I've never made it before, but yeah, if you guys want to try that out, I think it's called dough salt, but essentially you make dough that you can harden and turn into an ornament from, I think it's just cornstarch, water, and maybe one other ingredient. but most likely stuff that you already have right in your house. So I've never done it before, so I can't tell you how to do it. But I would highly encourage you guys to check out some DIY ornaments, because again, super fun craft ideas. You can create new traditions for your family that are sustainable. I know growing up, like my favorite tradition of the year, my mom would take me and my sister to go get a new ornament every single year. So it was really fun whenever we're unpacking and decorating the tree to see, oh, this is the one I got when I was 5. This is the red Power Ranger from when I was 4. But it would be just as cool if you're looking at stuff that you had made rather than stuff that you bought.
There's a recipe that uses cinnamon and applesauce too, and those smell really good. So
I don't know if I'd be able to resist eating that while making it if it smelled that good.
I'll say also like cinnamon sticks and dried citrus fruit are really nice garland. We decorate a little bit in the shop with those, and then we turn them into a simmer pot mix afterwards. So when you're, done decorating for the holidays, put those items into a pot of boiling water, and it makes the house smell like cinnamon and clove and orange and all that.
That's amazing. I'm definitely going to try that. Well, kind of wrapping up the topic of gift giving and decor, moving on to mindful shopping. And we have 2 small businesses here with us today. So why is it important to support local businesses during the holidays? And how do your sustainable practices make you different from those big box stores like Amazon, Target, Walmart?
I feel like I'm going first. So I try to answer, that's a lot of questions, Kenny. So I'm going to try to remember all the questions.
I apologize.
But why shopping small? So I will say for us, obviously the holidays are our strongest season of the whole year. I would strongly suggest that you not just shop small during the holidays. We really do need people to shop year round. That is the only way that we'll actually be able to stay in business. To be honest, the seasonality of it is not sufficient to just shop gifting. But then also what makes us different than the big box stores. Again, we're working with local artists, local makers, local barbecue sauce, companies across the board. We're trying to, if we can find it locally, we are absolutely doing our best to do so. And then again, that revenue stays within the local community, which is something that there's less shipping involved, less packaging waste. We actually have a lot of our vendors who truly just drop things off on the counter. That is our delivery mechanism. So we don't need any extra plastic bubble wrap or filler. So we're able to keep things in smaller quantities so that we don't need all of the additional packaging pieces that the big box stores have. To be honest, it's become really hard for me to shop in any big box stores for anything anymore, because you just can't walk down an aisle and not see all the packaging waste. So being able to see and touch the items that you're purchasing, especially this time of year, so that it has that more meaningful, have a story behind it so that you can relay the story as part of the gift of the baker and what they value and what their origin story is. One of the best selling products we have in our shop is a goat's milk soap. I've actually milked the goats that they use the goat's milk to make it. So that gives me much more of a firsthand experience. She also reuses fabric strips as part of her packaging. So she'll take those back from you. So if you purchase her soaps and you have lots of these little wrappers, she'll actually repurpose those. So it is a fantastic way to give people an experience of shopping small through gifting.
I love all those words, and I agree with my shop too. We do source some local items too, and it is amazing to see those, that not only does your money stay local, but like you're supporting multiple small businesses when you shop somewhere that also has local items. I will echo the shopping year-round local is important, because there are always birthdays, other holidays, hostess gifts, things that you might need. The big box stores don't notice your purchase. We do. And also, we're here to help. We're not just cashiers. We're curating these items. A lot of small businesses, like, it's my shop. I'm looking around, like, these are things that I love, that like these are people that I care about, that I'm sourcing their products through or from. And again, like, it lowers the carbon footprint when you're not shipping things and people are just bringing them right to your store. I love that you're like plopping it down on. That is exactly how some of my vendors work. Or they'll come and they'll set up their shelves. It's great. And then I wanted to say, like, I have one new vendor that uses grass-fed tallow in lotions, and she used to be a chef. Now she's in Philly, but I have family in New Jersey. So I like actually plan to go meet this person who has been shipping things to me, but she's one of my top products right now. I got to meet her. So it's just a more personable experience, and supporting that, you know, circular economies, keeping things in your own area.
Yeah, just one more quick note on that. So Amazon, I know we all end up using Amazon for something here or there, but knowing the origin of the goods, knowing where it actually comes from is something that takes a little digging to understand. But most of the products that are on there are imported, mostly from China, to be honest. So just being eyes wide open and aware of that. And if there are alternatives that you could pursue that are made in the area where you live, supporting local vendors that way. Yes, we know the prices are not always, I will be honest, people come in the shop all the time and they're Googling products. We try not to carry anything that Amazon carries, but please don't price compare something that's made in the local community to what you can get on Amazon, because there's just no way for local artists or makers to really compare with that. So just something else to keep in mind.
And it almost kind of goes into the greenwashing thing. Like, Amazon will say, like, support small businesses, but those small businesses sometimes have to pay a fee to have the prime shipping. They have to pay a fee to be first in the feed, to, you know, show up when you're searching for things. So sometimes it's not a bad idea to, if you see something on Amazon and you do want to purchase it, it never hurts to ask and go to that business's website, if it says like small business or whatever, and say, hey, I found you on Amazon. Like, would you rather me order through here? It just never hurts to ask.
I think that's a great point. And especially when you're on Amazon or Target or any of those places, a lot of those products that they do tout as sustainable, you know, it's not sustainable how they get them. It's not sustainable how it's shipped to them. A lot of the time, this really is instances of greenwashing, which make us as consumers feel better, obviously, because we think we're buying sustainable goods. But at the end of the day, it isn't really that different than just buying a regular product that's wrapped in plastic. So on the topic of mindful shopping, and again, just kind of gift giving in the holiday season in general, what are your all's thoughts on buying practical gifts for people versus, you know, sentimental ones that may not have as much use, but could still be like meaningful to people in a different way? I'm thinking of like a couple of years ago, me and my sister bought my dad a like 3-foot bust of Darth Vader's head. Not the most practical gift versus like the Dyson vacuum that my mom got me last year that I use almost every day. So how do you kind of find that balance between buying the things that you need versus the stuff that is still super fun to have, which still helps you celebrate the holiday season in a more joyous way, but may not actually be necessary?
I think this is where thrifting comes in. If there's something really fun, like a Star Wars theme that you know you want to put together a present for somebody because they're a huge Star Wars or Trekkie or whatever, like making that as you're going through thrift shops, trying to specifically assemble things from that you know that person would enjoy into one gift. I think that's a super fun way of still doing something that's kind of trendy, you know, themed, but also is secondhand.
And I'd say also look for handcrafted versions of that. I know that there are a lot of 3D printers who use like sugarcane based filament. And so if you want to do something that's very artsy and everything, see if you can get the handcrafted version of it. And maybe like just read the room when you're giving gifts. Like if someone is really struggling that year, they just moved into a new house, maybe it's not the time for you to buy them a huge Darth Vader. It might be the time to introduce them to sustainable like home goods by getting them some things from a refill shop because they just got a new house. Or if it's a year where everything has been very good for them and their favorite movie, I don't know, had a very great year, and a lot of handcrafted artists made things as a tribute to that movie, then that might be a good year to buy that thing that that person has a huge affinity for.
And
I'm
finding
also
stuff at like local vendors and craft shops are a great way to do it, especially during the holidays. There are like so many holiday markets and stuff where local vendors are. So always try and buy local rather than going to Amazon or stuff for those posters or whatever memorabilia you're looking for.
I will say for me, I feel like I, over the years, have had a little bit of FOMO when asking for gifts. Like people, you know, my family asking, what's your Christmas, what's your Christmas list? What's your Christmas list? And I'm like, oh, I guess like a gift certificate, like, and I'll, ask for things local, but I never really asked for anything practical until last year. And I asked for an almond cow. And for those of you that don't know what it is, it's a machine that makes nut milk and oat milk. And I swear that is the best practical gift that I've gotten. But I had to tell everybody, like, everyone go in on this one thing. I need it. But I think there is like some kind of fear of missing out, like too, when you're giving that, gift, the list of gifts that you would like.
Yeah, I was going to just say on the practical front, I'm a huge advocate, and I know somebody in the chat mentioned this as well, of practical gifts, but maybe the ones that are a little bit nicer and a little bit more expensive than what you would normally buy for yourself. I think we have a broom in our shop that's actually made in Pennsylvania and, by I think the Amish crafters, and it's crazy expensive, but it's beautiful. And, that would be something that you would have for a really long time. Would I buy it for myself? I don't know. But I do think you can find those special pieces that people might hold on to for a really long time, but they wouldn't necessarily treat themselves to. And, when in doubt, ask if it's something that they might like. I feel like you're always better off to ask up front or to create a list, like Melissa said, so that you're meeting their expectations and that it's something that they'll be excited about.
I think that's a great point. Especially in adulthood, I think gift giving gets harder because a lot of people have the stuff that they want, you know what I mean? And there are so many people where it's like, I need to get them a gift, but they really seem like they just have everything. And in those instances, it typically is better to ask them what they want than to just buy a product that they may or may not use. Obviously, that takes the surprise away a little bit, but it makes sure that something that you buy is not being wasted. You're not wasting resources and you're not wasting your own money.
And I've had really good luck the last few years on Buy Nothing. Since the Buy Nothing, Regive, give groups on social media. I found my daughter a dollhouse one time, and I just repainted, redid the floors with some scrap paper, made it new. Somebody didn't want it anymore. And then this year, my little guy is 2, and he loves Moana, but that's like, there are no new Moana toys or anything, but people still have them in their attic just sitting there. So we're like gathering them from people in the community. So he has a great big Moana Christmas.
One thing I also want to add is instead of making wish lists, I make mood boards, because sometimes people think if it's a very specific thing on a wish list, you have to get that thing. But I tell people, like, I really like candles, and these are the scents that I like. And in that process, I also use that time to educate people, like, this is why I like this type of candle, or like these type of gifts, because they're more sustainable. Because sometimes people, they want to shop sustainably for you, but they don't know, like, what type of fabric is better, what type of candle wax is better. So small things like that help me get things that I want and I know I can use.
I love that mood board idea. That's so cool.
And what an amazing segue into what might be our last topic of the night, since we only have 5 minutes left, but educating friends and family about celebrating sustainably without sounding overly preachy. Outside of mood boards and giving sustainable gifts yourselves, not even just in the holiday season, but throughout the year, how do you guys approach having conversations with friends, family, and loved ones about how they could potentially practice more sustainability in their life again, without coming off like you're judging them or talking down to them, because very often I think that's kind of what sustainable people sound like, as one who does it a lot, I think.
That's where the retail experience can really come into play. I think it's fun and social to bring people into a setting like our shop, and I'm sure Melissa's shop is the same, where they can share with each other. Have you tried that? What do you think about this? That one was really amazing. That worked really well for me. I feel like those personal recommendations go such a long way because these are your friends and family. You trust them. You've already built up a relationship. If somebody's like, oh, that wasn't the best for me, then you know to skip it. But that social aspect of connecting with people over things that they love, that they have now incorporated into their life. I know the first time I ever came across a Swedish dishcloth was my college roommate was like, oh my gosh, these things are amazing. You need to try these. And honestly, it worked. I immediately was like, well, if it worked for Megan, it's going to work for me. So I've got to go get myself one. So I think that contagious approach to going into a retail setting where there are things like this tangibly to pick up and to talk about is one good way.
I totally agree with that. There are people, you said there are people, these are people that you know and trust that you're talking to. And so I hope she's not watching, but I was going to say, like, social media helps me a lot to have these conversations. Not only do I share my lifestyle on the Great.Full Goods page, but like I saw today that my best friend was making pasta and she had like a knife and a really thick piece of like noodle that she was slicing it with. And I thought to myself, I could probably thrift or find a spaghetti maker for her. So I'll be, doing that and saying something like, I saw that you were making spaghetti. This may make things easier. So I don't know. Again, these are people that you know and trust that you're talking to. So most of the time, I've never had anybody get upset with me for suggesting something, but I've definitely gotten a lot of questions.
Yeah, I feel like the best thing that on my end is just showing people how I live. Like I have a sustainability blog where it's just me Instagramming like random aspects of my life that are more sustainable. And sometimes people don't even realize that it's easier. Like encouraging people to use water filters instead of water bottles. And like when they see that, you don't have a trash can overflowing with plastic bottles, they're like, maybe I could do that. And like also, sometimes just throw in the cost savings if people are price conscious, or if you have something that smells really good. Back to the candles, be like, well, this is really good for you because it's beeswax and not other wax, things like that. Just the small little suggestions. And when you give them gifts with the sustainable products, people are like, this is a really great product and it lasts a long time. And I'm like, that's because it's sustainable.
That is absolutely fantastic and so true. I think really a big part about getting people on board with the sustainability message and living a more eco-conscious lifestyle is showing them how easy and practical and beneficial it really is for them and their wallet. Like especially the wallet. If you can show them that shopping sustainable and doing stuff like refill markets is actually cheaper than going and buying these single-use items wrapped in plastic that's just going to end up in a landfill, it makes them so much more likely, if they know they're going to be saving money and going to a cool shop to talk with cool people while they're doing it. All of that stuff really does help people get into the spirit of sustainability and really achieve what we were talking about this entire time for green gifting. I just checked my watch and it is 7:59. So do we have any questions that have gone unanswered, Kara?
We do. One person wanted to know, for giving cookies, they didn't want to use tins because they want to keep all the different flavors separate. Does anyone have any suggestions for how to do that doesn't involve like cellophane or plastic bags?
Depending on the type. Sorry,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, depending on the type of cookie, you might be able to use fabric, and do like little fabric with ties and collect them together into something that's a little bit larger.
Exactly what I was going to say, fabric or paper.
And somebody else wanted to know also, oh, I see someone said DARS in the chat. That's also a great idea. Somebody wanted to know what your stores do for wrapping the items that your customers buy.
So my store hasn't ever bought bags. So we've had some pretty crazy bags come in here. Like after Mother's Day, we're giving away Mother's Day bags until graduation. And so right now we're using 6-packs from the bar below us. and if you separate the 6-pack part of it, like it's perfect to fit like a couple different products. And then also we get just donations. And right now, because we have a new creative reuse center and they use the bags with the handles, I'm just like kind of giving her those and I'm taking all the funny ones because I don't know, it's fun.
Okay, one final quick, oh, sorry, go ahead, Robin.
I was just going to say, we strongly encourage people to bring their own bags or baskets or boxes or whatever it is. And for the most part, our customers now have almost trained themselves to do that. Usually if somebody asks for a bag, it's either for a gift or it's clear that it might be their first time shopping with us.
Yes.
Great. So one final question, sorry, we're going over a couple minutes, but this should be fast. What about styrofoam? And I assume the person said any ideas for styrofoam. I'm assuming they mean like reusing styrofoam, maybe crafting it into something or recycling it in some way.
I say if you cosplay, styrofoam is very good for making props or also packaging your props if you travel to different cons. But there are, at least in Atlanta, there's the Center for Hard and Recyclable Materials where you can recycle foam. So you might have to get, styrofoam. So you have to get a little creative to figure out where to recycle them because it's not in the traditional bin.
I can echo that. My sister is a cosplayer by trade, and literally yesterday she answered a FaceTime while dressed as Thomas the Tank Engine, and she had a styrofoam cup right on her head, which was just the perfect hat. So that is definitely true. I can say that with 100% certainty. Well, I feel like that is a great spot for us to wrap up tonight. Thank you guys again so much for joining us. I really, really hope all of you learned something valuable that you're able to practice and implement into your holiday celebrations this year. Please just thank our amazing group of panelists for lending us their time this evening. Learning from all of you and getting to know you more during this past hour has been an absolute treat. And I really hope that you guys, all of our attendees, be sure to check out all of these amazing businesses, engage with them on social media, support them by buying their goods this holiday season, and just share their message with your friends, neighbors, your community. All of these local businesses and nonprofits really rely on local people coming to the shops, buying things, like Melissa and Robin said, not just in the holiday season, but throughout the year. So always be thinking about how you can shop sustainably, how you can shop small, and look for ways to avoid Amazon and Target and Walmart and all of those big box places. And before we sign off this evening, we do have a quick message. If you did not know, today is Giving Tuesday, which is a day all about giving back to charitable causes and organizations in the spirit of the holiday. It's kind of a nice anti-Black Friday, anti-Cyber Monday thing that has been going on since about 2013, I believe. But we at Sustainability Matters are about $300 away from reaching our goal, which will help us with habitat restoration projects and to bring you guys more educational programs like these webinars and our in-person programming events like our Ecologigals project, which engages middle and high school girls in environmental science education and encourages them to consider careers in environmental science to minimize that gender gap that exists in the field. Any donations you guys are able to make would be greatly, greatly appreciated. You can donate by visiting our website, sustainabilitymatters.earth. TJ, if you could drop the link for that in the chat. We really just would appreciate any support you guys are able to give. And if you can't support us financially, that is completely, completely okay. Just by being here tonight and learning how to celebrate more sustainably is really achieving the spirit of Giving Tuesday. And we really just thank you guys so much for taking the time to learn how to be better stewards to our planet this evening. So with that, good night, thank you, and I hope to see some of you guys at sustainability events in the future. Bye-bye.